Re-Zero, Side Story, Pristella Reconstruction Journal No. 3, Chapter 1.
The Watergate city of Pristella, a great temple, is said to be located deep within its underground canals. In the Great Temple, the existence of which is usually kept secret, the remains of a witch are stored, a relic from 400 years ago and an important heritage that relates to the foundation of the city. The remains belong to the witch who inspired the construction of this Watergate city, and were also one of the objectives of the witch cult's attack that hit the city so hard the other day. In other words, the remains have attracted attention, both good and bad, and it is no longer safe to simply keep their existence as secret as before. Therefore, in order to ensure the preservation of the remains, which could not be moved from the city, personnel were selected to go to the Great Temple to investigate. These people were part of the camps of the candidates for the royal selection surrounding the kingdom of Lugnaka, who also made a great contribution to the recent battle against the witch cult, and the rare diva who is the Watergate city of Pristella's pride. Whoa, 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 what the hell? We re-falling. The moment they opened the great secret door hidden in the underground channel and challenged the underground temple, Garfield and his companions felt a sense of floating as their feet fell out and they tumbled down. It wasn't that the other side of the door was a big hole. As soon as the door was opened, it was a mechanism to open from underneath. A trap, in short. Garfield has done it. Garfield bit his lip. Garfield, you're good, you bastard. His throat quivered with anger at the architect of the contraption as he savored the feeling of floating with his whole body. A moment later, Garfield stretches his arms and legs as far as they will go and makes contact with some part of the wall as his body falls. Garfield felt a slight snag and rammed his claws into the wall without holding back. However, it was assumed to kill the momentum, but it did not. Garfield, The surface of the wall, where Garfield had stuck his claws, was slippery as if it had been greased. The speed slows down, but the fall doesn't stop. Garfield was still falling. He looked around to see if there was anything else he could grab. Liliana, I'm falling. This floating feeling. The feeling of desperation. It's like a flash of inspiration. Garfield, shut the fuck up. Calm down, Liliana, Fu. As Garfield fell headlong, he grabbed Liliana in the air, still in good spirits. Garfield couldn't choose where to grab her, so he had to grab one of her 2 strands of hair. He pulled her in and managed to hold her under his arm. Liliana, Garfield-san. I just heard a terrible noise in my neck. Garfield, it's better than being crushed underneath and having your whole body fall apart. This is no time to be talking about Auron's bad habits. As for the others, they're at. Overhearing Liliana's ugly protests, Garfield glanced into the air. Don't make such a fuss, there's nothing to worry about. Well, I can't say that. The vigorous voice came directly underneath Garfield, who was in free fall, and saw Ricardo, who was also falling. He, too, had stuck the hook of his right arm into the wall to control the speed of his fall. And in his strong, thick arm, he was also carrying a small shadow, just like Garfield. Ricardo got Sensei, and Garfield got the singing girl. Just barely made it. Well, I thank you, Ricardo Dono. But your voice is somewhat loud. It's being shouted in my ear. Ricardo, what? What is it? I can't hear you, Sensei. No. It's nothing. You and Garfield Dono up there, brace yourselves for impact. We're about to reach the lowest level. But first, the figure in Ricardo's arms, the wizard Ezo Cadna, cautions them. The lowest level, caution, what awaits them? Liliana, Kenzan Mountains, scorching lava, and the big witch beast of Pristella with her big mouth. Garfield, I don't care what's waiting for me. I'm going to knock 'em all down. Garfield laughed viciously at Liliana's pessimistic imagination. But right underneath Garfield and the others who were preparing to do so, no, don't worry about that. Women are meant to be treated more respectfully, Ezo said quietly, and unleashed some kind of magic from his hand down below. Immediately, A light appeared at the lowest level of the approaching world, and it was coming closer and closer. Ezo, everyone. Once again, brace yourselves for impact. The words of caution were interrupted, and the invading team collectively sank into a mass of mud.
Chapter 2.
Ricardo, ha ha ha. You're good, sensei. You turned the ground where I fell into a muddy pit and made it okay. I hate you, Ezo, ouch, ouch, ouch. Ricardo Dono, take it easy on me, Ezo protested loudly as he was patted on the shoulder by a laughing Ricardo. The two of them were covered in mud, having been immersed from head to toe in the mud. Of course, Garfield and Liliana were no exception. Liliana, it just hit me. Please listen. I've got an idea. Garfield, no, stop it, you're depressing me. Liliana tries to play a new song with her lyre in hand. Waving to the mud-blackened diva, Garfield scraped the mud out of his ears with his fingers. Garfield did not complain because he was saved from a close call, but, Garfield, couldn't you have done better? Ezo, that's a bit of an amateur view, Garfield Dono. Let me tell you, under the circumstances, this was the best decision I could have made. There is a limit to the number of techniques that can be deployed in a limited amount of time. Of course, we had the option of using wind and water to soften the impact, but if there was ground, the most appropriate thing to do was to turn it into mud. Garfield, if it had been that Roswell bastard, he would have just flown to safety. Ezo, just so you know, the art of flying is not something you can just pop up and do. The scowl on Garfield's face was followed by an even worse scowl and bite from Ezo. He turned his neat, almost childlike face red with anger. Ezo, fire control to avoid the effects of the climate, and the wind attribute to let your body fly freely. Of course, you also need to control the earth attribute in order to land safely on the ground so you don't break your legs. Despite its cool appearance, it requires precise magic control. That man, Garfield, I wonder, do you not like this Roswell bastard by any chance? Ezo, oh, I hate him. You can say you hate him too. I'm not jealous of you or anything, so please don't misunderstand me. Garfield, oh, yeah? My amazing self doesn't like the bastard either. We get along well, don't we? Ezo, oh. You too? Yeah, that's me. As fellow Roswell haters, there was a sense of empathy between Garfield and Ezo. The stinging atmosphere of the previous moment vanished and the two men walked up to each other and shook hands. As he watched, Ricardo skillfully scratched his own head with his hook. Ricardo, what an awkward way to reconcile. Garfield, ha ha ha, that's good, isn't it? Good friendship is a beautiful thing. Ha ha ha. Ricardo, and what about you, young lady? I thought you were supposed to be always cheerful. Liliana carried such a gloomy air that Ricardo couldn't help but feel concerned for her. She held out her lyre forcefully in response to Ricardo's question. Look at this. Her partner and workhorse, a stringed instrument called a lyre, was soaked in mud, with sludge stuck here and there, and was no longer visible.
Liliana, my lyre that has been passed down in my family for generations.
There was a story about a man who risked his life to get it back from under the feet of a witch beast. Ricardo, oh, that's terrible. So it's been handed down from generation to generation. I'm sorry for your loss, Liliana. If I could forget it with such a word, that wouldn't come to my mind. As Ricardo lowered his eyebrows in sympathy, the barking Liliana made the lyre chatter. It was a terrible sound. Liliana, I can't believe that my partner, who returned safely from the burning control tower, fell into the mud in this way. Tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. I'm still in shock. If the world is an impermanent thing, I will drown out all unreason in this world. And then I'll disappear again. Liliana, who has begun to hope for the end of the world, her sorrowful speech is interrupted, literally, as if she were sprayed with water. Liliana, WH, what a tragedy. What a tragedy I am in right now. Ezo, all right. Look, it's water. Liliana, huh? What's wrong with water? I know water when I see it, and I know it better when I lick it. Here, lick. Water. Liliana, who had been slurping up something that had been splashed in her face, darted her eyes when she heard it was water. In front of her, Garfield squared his chin at Ezo in disgust. Ezo, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you, Miss Liliana. I will have some water for you in a moment. It will only be a first aid measure, but it should help to wash away the mud from Liliana. Liliana, God, is here, Garfield, he's the one who got us into this muddy mess. Liliana, yeah, shut up, shut up. How dare you speak to God, unbeliever? If you say such a thing to Ezo Summer, I'll have no mercy on you. Biting her tongue and bleeding profusely, Liliana rebuked Garfield. Then, with a quick movement, she used the spring water that Ezo had created with his magic to wash away the mud from the Liliana. Garfield looked at her and sighed, and Ricardo tapped Garfield on the shoulder. Ricardo, well, that was a disaster. But this is going to be a pain in the ass. Garfield, well, as they said this, Garfield and Ricardo both looked up at the large hole they had just fallen through, and then at the wall that had remained in a horribly slippery state. Garfield's claws and Ricardo's hook only served to slow down the fall, and even when you touch them, they feel unusually smooth to the touch and sloped slightly. Garfield, it's so that if you fall, you can't get back up. That's pretty ingenious. Ricardo, it's a little hard to climb, even for me and Garfield. I'm pretty sure we've fallen a bit, and it's only 50 or 60 meters. Ezo, no, more. We didn't reach over 100 meters, though. Ezo then joined them as they talked while looking at the wall. A dwarf crossed his short arms, a stern expression on his childish face. Ezo, I've flown from heights many times to make my flight magic work. That floating feeling was close to the one I had when I flew off a 100-meter cliff. No doubt, Ricardo, you have a very primitive way of training, even for a wizard. Ezo, people under extreme conditions show more of their true potential than they have at their base. Let me tell you, I chose a place where there is a river under the cliff. I don't want you to get me mixed up with a suicidal person. Ricardo, you also need to know what you can do with your current abilities. Yeah, good story. Ezo stomped on the ground and pointed his finger upward with a snap. Ezo, anyway, the important thing is that there is no going back the way we fell. And to my horror, this great temple is apparently set up with traps to prevent intruders. In other words, Ricardo, in short, Ezo, that means you'll need all the help you can get, Ezo said strongly, a red ball of fire appearing in his hands. It dazzlingly illuminated the surrounding space, and in front of the astonished people, aha! And a fireball was thrown in front of the surprised group. The ball passed over Liliana, who was washing her Liliana. The long passageway that was ahead was revealed in a red glow. Ricardo, a passage leading to the back. Normally, you wouldn't give a fallen man another chance, but what does this mean? Ezo, there's nothing to it. Go on, I suppose. It would be a shame to not follow the wishes of the architects of this great temple, but it is also true that there is no point in not continuing. Garfield, I'd like to see the face of the guy who made this. Must have been a man with bad character. The three of them exchanged opinions as they crossed their arms and stared at the passage leading to the end of the trap. In the first place, it is the worst type of character to drop a trap on the first step to challenge the great temple. Garfield can sense a similar malice in the way they also smeared something like oil on the walls. Liliana, oh, hey, guys. I don't mind that you're going deeper, but, Garfield, oh? What's wrong, Nei-chan? Liliana looks like she's come to her senses after cleaning off some of the dirt from the Liliana. Garfield frowned as she looked back at him, teeth chattering. However, the reason for Liliana's attitude soon became apparent. Sue, a low, growling cry is heard, and Liliana screams, Wapya. Then she quickly jumped underneath Garfield and the others. Behind Liliana, from the shadows of the passage illuminated by the fireball, a strange shape slowly appeared. Garfield, that's not a witch beast. What the hell are they? It was a distorted-looking creature that looked like a bunch of rats gathered together. It has a stubby, swollen, round body with several heads poking out from various parts of its torso. All of them seemed to have a will of their own, as their eyes moved with a gleam and their mouths gaped open. Liliana, Yugya.
I feel sick.
Ricardo, hey, sensei. You know what that is? Ezo, no, and don't make a scene. It's probably some kind of guardian for the Great Temple, but what the hell is with that kind of odd shape? Even witch beasts don't look like that. Garfield, don't care. Claws poking out, Garfield pushed Liliana's panicked head back and walked slowly toward the apparition. There is only one way forward, and that way is blocked by the enemy. Garfield, they say facing the dragon. Sword Saint Reed laughs and draws his blade. Ezo, that means you're a crazy lunatic. With his allies cheering him on from behind, Garfield rushed towards the strange being. Pristella, the city of water, the attack on the great underground temple had now begun in earnest.